I'm back with another episode of the Planet Doug podcast for what day is it? I've already forgotten. I think it's Tuesday, December 3rd. Let me double check that. Let's see. I have so much technology around me and I still have trouble figuring out the date. Yes, Tuesday, December 3rd, just before 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting on the bed inside my room, double executive room, I think they call it, or deluxe double. It's amazing how these hotels use words like deluxe. I've never stayed in a deluxe room that actually had anything deluxe about it. I mean, if the rooms I'm staying in are deluxe, I would hate to see the standard because you can't really go much lower than the rooms that I've been staying in. But yeah, this is like a deluxe double, and I'm staying at what is the name of this place? The Wisma Sederhana Hotel in Medan. Full name on Google Maps is the Wisma Sederhana Mitra Red Doors. But I don't know if they're still associated with Red Doors or not. I didn't notice any signage related to that. But quite often the names and things on Google Maps are not updated. I find that most hotels or companies that I encounter anyway in Southeast Asia, they don't really pay much attention to Google Maps, the listing. It seems that way to me anyway, where the listing can be completely wrong, the pin will be in the wrong place, everything will be wrong, so it's not really updated or maintained by the company. And I have in the past pointed this out to them when I've really struggled. I'm trying to find their store or their coffee shop or their hotel, and it's in the wrong location on Google Maps. And that's a huge problem for me as a customer, so I figure I'll do them a favor by telling them I almost didn't come to your company because the pin on Google Maps is in the wrong location. And I'm thinking they're going to be appreciative and, oh, thank you so much for pointing that out, and they'll change it right away. But usually they don't even know or care what I'm talking about. I don't think the Google Maps listing is that important to people here. I could be wrong about that. It struck me lately that so much of business here is run through the phone, through personal contacts. Like, people will phone businesses all the time. All they really need is the phone number, or they need a WhatsApp number to do everything. Like, people run quite large companies with nothing but a WhatsApp number. Like, no website, no catalogs, no brochure, no marketing, nothing. All they have is a WhatsApp number, and they do absolutely fine. And I think the local people are accustomed to, doing business that way, which is kind of interesting. It makes me wonder about the pricing of WhatsApp, because there is no price. It's a free service. I don't know how they make their money, but that's not a surprise because I'm such a dummy when it comes to money. I don't know how anybody makes money, to be honest. Like any businesses I see, I try to do the math in my head, and it's like, how are you making a profit based on all the salaries you're paying, plus the retail space, the rent, or whatever, all the costs that go into running this little restaurant? How in the world are you coming out ahead at the end with a profit? I don't know how any company does it. So, yeah, I'm a dummy when it comes to that. So I don't know how WhatsApp makes their money. I assume it must be advertising based, but I use WhatsApp all the time, and I have no memory of seeing an ad. They're probably there. Maybe they work on a subliminal level. Maybe I'm busy drinking a certain brand of coffee because, or drinking a type of water or something else because it's on WhatsApp, but I don't think so. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the Google Maps listing, the Wisma Sederhana Mitra Red Doors. But it may not be a Red Doors anymore. It could be that the Google Maps listing is just not updated. And I've stayed here before on a previous visit to Medan. I ended up here for two reasons last time. Price, it's a low budget hotel. And the second was location, because it's relatively near the train station. If you walk straight here, back in the old days, it was 1.1 kilometers. And if I have my backpack or something like that, I mean that's a light stroll. So you don't have to worry about any kind of taxi or Baychak or Gojek or Grab or anything like that. You just come out of the train station and you walk here. So that's how I ended up here last time, and I had an okay experience. It's an older building. It's seen a lot of mileage, and I'll talk about that quite a bit more in a minute. But because of that, the rooms do tend to be, I don't know, a little bit more spacious than your standard low budget hotel. I guess like a modern one, they'll chop up the space as much as they can to just jam in as many rooms as they can. So they make them smaller and smaller, same as any low budget airline. They do the same thing with their seats. But in the old days, a low budget hotel was a little bit more liberal with their space. So that's one good thing. I always say these hotels have old bones, and that is the case here. It's got old bones, and so you get some, a little room, a little bit of elbow room here inside the rooms. So that works out well. And I came back here this time for three reasons, I guess. One would be the location. One kind of is the price. But I do know a little bit more about prices these days, and maybe it's not quite as inexpensive as I thought. But compared to a real hotel, yeah, it's a low budget place. So location and price. But then when I stayed here last time, I learned that it's in Chinatown. And I always find the Chinatown districts of these large Asian cities to be very, I feel at home there. I feel comfortable. There's always a lot going on. The streets are busy and lots of shops, lots of restaurants. And I like the food that they serve in Chinatown. So I like that. And it's sitting right on a famous food street. There's like an alleyway here, which I didn't know when I booked a room here last time. You step outside. The hotel is like in an alleyway, and you step outside the front door, and boom, it's a food street. People come from all over Medan. They'll drive for an hour just to come to this food street to pick something up to take home or to have something to eat here. It can be quite busy on the weekends. Me, of course, I don't notice any kind of higher quality to the food compared to anywhere else. It all seems the same to me, but it's very convenient to have so many interesting food outlets right outside my door. So when I got here last night, first thing I did, of course, was unpack and move into my room. That's like I do that like an army on the move. I've got a very deliberate, methodical way of unpacking and rebuilding, redesigning the room to make it comfortable for me, moving furniture around and setting everything up the way I like it. And then as soon as I was done with that, took a quick shower and then went outside and I got some, what did I have? I had nasi babi panggang. And it's a really good meal. I think it was my very first meal here last time too, because I don't know, there was something inviting about the restaurant. I was walking up and down the alleyway, and it was so busy the first time I came here. And then, I don't know, I didn't quite understand how the restaurants worked. Some of them seemed to have the entrances blocked, and then you had to stand and wait, or I don't know, I couldn't quite figure it out. But this restaurant was wide open, empty tables. There's no people inside, and then they had pictures right at the very front. And one meal looked simple and appealing to me. It was just basically a bed of rice with some veggies and then two types of meat on top, like smoked meat of some kind with some really delicious looking sauce. So I thought, okay, that looks good. And that was nasi babi panggang. And then, so I went in there the first time, and that's what I had. And then this time I went out walking, and I ended up back at the same place. And it cost, it was a good meal, a lot of meat. And you know it's a Chinese restaurant because it contains pork. I think all the meat was pork. Two different types, two different colors, two different baking or smoking or barbecuing method. And then, it cost us 60,000 rupiah. Off the top of my head, I don't know how much that is in dollars. But anyway, 60,000 rupiah. And for that, the quality of that meal, I think that was a pretty good price. I think you pay a little bit of a premium for this alleyway. They have a reputation, so they can charge a little bit more. But man, what an experience coming here. I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit in my storytelling. But basically, yesterday I flew from Jakarta to Medan, and I flew on a low-budget carrier called Super Airjet. And I'll tell that whole story in a minute. So I landed in Medan, and I booked this room. And my idea was to take the airport train because at the Kuala Namu airport, they have a really nice airport train, very convenient, very fast. And you hop on that train, and next thing you know, you're in downtown Medan, right at the train station. And the thing is, when I landed, this time in particular at Kuala Namu, I was astonished at how nice the airport was. My experience at the Jakarta airport had not been that great. The terminal building, the International Terminal 3, it looked to be decades old, really worn out. There was nothing inside the terminal building. It turns out there was more outside. Like when you left the building, it was like, oh, okay, this is where all the nicer restaurants and cafes and services are. But I wasn't aware of that at the time, so I thought I was inside the terminal building. I came out of customs, and there I was in the terminal building, and I'm looking around going, whoa, kind of a dump. And I wouldn't normally think that, except that a friend of mine had recently gone through this airport and took a whole bunch of video just for me, because I asked him what was the airport like. Is it a new, modern, fancy schmancy place like all the new airports in Asia? Or is it still kind of an old, dumpy kind of place that I actually prefer? Because I miss the old, dumpy airports that I remember from past decades. All the modern stuff kind of freaks me out in a way, because, yeah, it's kind of a surprise, I think, to people from the West in general now when they come to Asia. And they are, as I've talked about many times before, I think the average person from Canada would come to anywhere, Malaysia or Thailand, Indonesia, and they're honestly expecting to find rice fields and bullocks and traditional farmers who, haven't heard of the iPhone, stuff like that. I mean, they still have this image of a very traditional agrarian world, and so I think a lot of us, even me in some cases, are shocked at how modern and how advanced everything is in terms of technology. And it comes even as a surprise to me to go through airports and then look at all the people living in that country. And it's like, wow, have these places changed and modernized? But I do miss the old world that I remember from previous trips, and I miss the old rickety, dumpy airports. But the Terminal 3 at the Jakarta airport, Soekarno-Hatta, I think it's called, Soekarno-Hatta Airport, it's one of the older ones. And I didn't realize that the newer airport was all kind of on the outside. So I thought that terminal building was it. And when I was there, as I talked about, I had a tremendous amount of trouble getting my smartphone set up, because I knew I wanted to book the train ticket in Kuala Namu, but to do that I needed the train ticket app, and I couldn't download it because of this, because of that, because I had old accounts, and the old accounts were on my old phone that were blocked by customs, and I couldn't transfer them over because they're connected with an old phone number. And in order for me to transfer the account or reinstall it, they had to send me security codes, but they were sending them to my old phone number from Indonesia, which doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, I was at the airport. I didn't keep track of the time, but I think it was about 3 hours. I landed, and then 3 hours after that, I was still in the airport, just trying to get my smartphone SIM card situation figured out, and my app situation figured out, and just trying to find the hotel shuttle bus. All of that was just completely mystifying. So I had a very negative experience of the airport. So when I flew here yesterday and landed at Kuala Namu, and of course it was a domestic flight, so I didn't have to deal with anything. There was no customs, no immigration, no getting SIM cards, nobody really bothering you. It's just a domestic flight. And then when I walked out into the airport, it was like nice. It was much more, it felt new and modern and spacious. And I knew that about the airport because I'd been there before, but this time, coming from Jakarta to Kuala Namu, it really struck me. It's like, wow, what a place. Those high ceilings, spacious. It was just, and it had a flow to it. You knew where to go. I found the Jakarta airport just baffling. There was no flow to where you went next as a person arriving, and then you want to go to your hotel shuttle. You just sort of naturally just start scanning your environment, looking for the signs pointing you in the right direction, and there were none. I was just lost in Jakarta the whole time. But here in Medan at Kuala Namu, you don't really have to think about it. Things just sort of happen intuitively. You grab, you get off the plane and you go down the hallway, and there you pick up your bag, and then the door you exit is right there. Like whenever you look up expecting to see the next stage in your journey, it was there right in front of you. The building just had a natural flow to it. And then there you are, you've entered the giant cavernous entrance hall. Feels very luxurious, feels very nice. I took a picture of it. And then, of course, you want to go where to go next. And I know I'm looking for the transportation building where the train is located and all the buses. And I look up, oh, there's the sign. Public transportation building to the right. And then everywhere you go, you just end up going where you need to be. Everything just makes sense. And everything is quite new and modern. And that goes as far as the train as well. Very, very nice train. The Air Link services, they call them. And you have to book it in advance. It's wise because it gets sold out. The last time I was here, the trains were sold out. And I had a great deal of trouble buying a ticket last time because they don't take money, like actual paper money anymore. There's no ticket counter. The only way to get a ticket is at a machine, and you can't insert money. You can only use e-wallets and payment cards and debit cards, or all these things that other people have that I don't have. So I couldn't buy a ticket last time. And eventually, one of the people that works for the Airlink Services train, he was trying to help me out, and he was telling me about e-wallets, and maybe if you go to Indomaret, you can do this, you can do that. But I couldn't do anything because I didn't have a SIM card yet. I wasn't connected. I couldn't really do anything. And he eventually took pity on me, and he said, okay, I'll buy the ticket for you, you dumb, gangly, hairy foreigner. I'll buy the ticket for you, and you just give me the money. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, he helped me out in the end, so I got a ticket. But I couldn't even get a ticket for the next train because all the tickets were sold. They were sold out. And then I realized later on that there was a train station app that covers airport trains and regional and city-to-city trains. So if you download the app, and then you can book tickets online. And when you're in Indonesia, it works out because you can book it online, but then you can go pay at an Indomaret, like any kind of convenience store. So you don't actually have to have an e-wallet. But anyway, when I was in Jakarta, I managed, after 3 hours, to reinstate my train station app, and I managed to reinstate my OVO e-wallet. Funny thing is, I told this story already, all the local people, they helped me open up an e-wallet, a brand new one from a different company, so I thought I was all set. But then when I went to the train station app, they don't accept payments from that particular e-wallet. So that was kind of crazy. It seemed like it was the biggest one in the country, but you couldn't use it. They only accepted OVO, which was ironic because that was the one I opened up last time, and I thought it was one of the worst ones, like one of the least popular ones. but that's the only one the train station app will work with. So then I managed to open up my OVO account again. I put money on it, and I bought the ticket. So when I landed at Kuala Namu Airport here in Medan, I was all set. I had an e-ticket, and I had the barcode saved on my phone as a screenshot. So then I could just go up to the entrance gates, and I had my ticket in advance, is what I'm saying. So even if the train was sold out, which I believe it was, it didn't matter. I had my ticket already. So if I didn't have a ticket, maybe I could have gotten one for the next train, but that wasn't until 8 o'clock at night or something like that. But yeah, everything worked out really well. My train was at 6:25, and I was a little bit worried because I timed my flight to link up with that 6:25 train, and then the flight was delayed out of Jakarta. I'll go back in time and tell the story of the flight, but it was delayed, so I was worried that, okay, now I'm going to miss my train connection, and all this work I did to make sure I got a ticket in advance, it's all going to go to waste because I'm not going to make my train. But no, it went fine. We still landed at something like 5. Well, I don't know what time we landed, but I had gotten my luggage, and I was in the transportation building where the train leaves from at something like 5:45, I think. So I still had nearly 45 minutes, and it was perfect, absolutely perfect timing. That was just enough time to get some of my milk, my favorite cold milk from a convenience store, relax. I sat down on a really comfortable chair, spacious area, not crowded, not noisy, really, really comfortable. And I had, of course, since it was a domestic flight, not an international one, so I was already landing with SIM cards and data. I was all set up. So I just sat there for 45 minutes and uploading photos and stories to Patreon, sending messages to friends. And then at 6:25, the train was there, and waltzed through the gate, scanned my barcode. And the last time I did this, I remember I got a ticket eventually because that man helped me out, and it has a reserved seat number. Tells you the coach number and your seat number, but that time I couldn't find my coach, like the actual car. I don't know I couldn't find the numbers anywhere, and I walked up and down the platform several times, and I couldn't find anything. And then I eventually just hopped on the train because it was going to leave soon. And then I had to walk up and down the whole train looking for my car. And at that time, for whatever reason, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what car I was in. And then when I finally did find my car, somebody was already in my seat. So I figured people were not paying attention to this reserved seating. You just get on and sit wherever. And then I found an empty seat and I sat down. But this time when I got on, I kind of had that experience in my memory, and I knew what was going on, and I was in executive car number 1. But again, I think they're all executive. It's sort of like the deluxe hotel rooms. They're all deluxe, so none of them are deluxe. I think the entire train, all of the cars were executive class. So technically none of them were because they're all exactly the same. So anyway, mine was executive coach number 1, and I had seat 1A, which I thought was kind of interesting because I'm wondering if you book your tickets online, does the computer automatically assign seats starting with number 1 and then going, okay, next person, number 2, number 3, number 4. Like, how in the world did I end up with seat 1A? Was I the very first person to book a seat on that train? Could be. I was super, super organized after my 3-hour struggle in Jakarta. Anyway, I had seat 1A in executive coach number 1. I found that seat without any trouble at all. Turned out it was a pretty bad seat because it was like the only seat in the whole train, I think, had no windows, if I remember right. It was sort of way at the very beginning against the back wall of the train, tucked away in the corner. It wasn't like a regular seat, but it didn't matter anyway because it was dark by the time we were moving. Yeah, it was totally dark. Normally, I really enjoy that train in the daytime because you see some countryside, you see the airport, you see some farming districts, you see some villages. It's really nice. And then you get into the city and you get to see all kinds of fascinating cityscapes, all the crazy housing that ends up beside railroad tracks tend to be relatively poor people end up living on the tracks because I mean, who wants to live beside the rich people do not want to have their house sitting on the railroad tracks where they're being bothered by the trains roaring past day and night. So that land it tends to be cheaper, and you get some poorer housing developments all up and down the train tracks. But it's always really fascinating to see. And then when the train enters the city of Medan, it's up on a raised platform. It's high above the ground, like a yeah, like a monorail sort of thing in an amusement park, and you get to see a lot of the city from up there. It's an incredible view. It's interesting even at night because you get to see the city lights from up there. But anyway, on this particular trip, I didn't see anything because it was dark, and then when we got into the city, I didn't see anything because I didn't have a window. So that was pretty funny. But anyway, I was really tired. All I wanted to do was sit in my seat and relax, to be honest. And I'd done the trip many times on that train, so I didn't really need to see everything all over again. But then came the shock of the Medan train station. And I just talked about how the Medan airport, the Kuala Namu International Airport, is one of my favorite airports because it's so nice and spacious and friendly. And it's smallish. I mean, it feels like you're at a regional airport. It does not have that stress and chaos of a big international airport. It's just a really nice place. It's a great place to land. So the airport is amazing, but to the extent that the Medan airport is amazing, the train station is just awful. I mean, if you're looking for a small adventure, just take the airport train from the airport to the central Medan railway station and then try to get out of the station. I challenge you to do it. Figure out how you, like a simple thing like, okay, you get off the train, now you're standing on the platform. Now try to get out of this train station. You can't do it. I've been there many times, and I still don't know how to do it. It just makes no sense at all. There's, I guess, where the airport train stops is separate from the actual train station area. And then as you're trying to exit, you cannot find the exit. As far as I can tell, there is no exit. I still haven't found one. It's really nuts. I can't figure it out. I don't know if it's just me being a dummy again, but it's crazy. And then the only way you can exit is I finally found this, and this happened to me before. This is the only way you can get out of this particular train station. I leave the building finally after a huge journey, like it's like an epic quest to figure out how to get out of there. And then you're walking out onto this, I don't know, it's like a raised drop-off point for cars. And it looks like you're in a back alley where you're going to have your throat slit. It's like, whoa. It's like, what am I doing here? This doesn't look safe. This doesn't look right. And then there's a narrow ramp going down to the right and going down to the left, like a car ramp. It's very narrow, just wide enough basically for one car. Like there's nothing there for pedestrians at all. And that's where you have to go. So when you leave the train station with all your luggage and your suitcases, everything you've got with you, and now you're walking down this narrow, crazy ramp where there's only room for you, and then if a car comes along, you're going to get smacked. It's just a weird, I'm still wondering, like, do I just miss the exit and the entrance? As far as I can tell, this train station, when you arrive at the way I did, there is no exit. and the only way to do it is down this car ramp. And then I turned to the left because I've done this before. I've done this before, and I've remarked on it every time. And I go to the left because that ramp takes you down to the street, and then you're heading in the right direction to go to the Wisma Sederhana Hotel. So I turned to the left, and I started walking down, and I run into a barrier. The whole thing is just blocked with giant metal sheets and barbed wire and fences, and it's just like, what? I mean, it's like a Mad Max environment. It's really something. And I thought, oh, what the heck is going on there? So I had to turn around, go back up, and I could go down the other side, same ramp idea. And then when I'm down there, I was faced with a barrier. And I remembered that there's a big park right across from the train station, and that park was under construction. The whole park was walled off, had metal, like corrugated tin sheets going all the way around this huge park, and they're basically digging up the whole thing, and I think they're building underground parking. It's going to be essentially the new train station access area or something. There's a lot. They're building something underground, and then they're going to build buildings on top of it. So I remembered that, and it causes total chaos around the train station. If you're driving in Medan, you do not want to go anywhere near the train station for the last however many years that construction has been going on. Just total chaos, total gridlock because of what they're doing to that park. And I was wondering whether the park would be done, because this was, a long time ago that I was here, and I thought, well, they must have made some progress. No, they have made no progress at all. And the construction has gone now from the park across the roads that are in front of the train station. So now, like in the old days, the road that goes by the train station was very crowded and chaotic and confusing, but it was still open. But now the entire front of the train station is just a construction zone. It's just completely blocked. And there's no way to get through it. There's no way to get past it, into it, do anything. And things were a little bit awkward for me because I didn't come to Indonesia with my backpack. I came here with my bicycle. So I have bicycle touring gear and bags. I don't have a backpack. So when I went on this detour to Malaysia and Jakarta, I just took an old like canvas plastic luggage bag that you can buy for 10 ringgit, that sort of thing, and I just dump my stuff in there and I wrap it up with a rope. So I didn't have a backpack, I didn't even have a suitcase. All I had was this really awkward slippery plastic bag that I tied up with a rope. So it's like a big cube basically with no handles on it, no wheels, no straps, nothing at all. I have to carry it in my arms. And that's no problem for me. I do stupid stuff like that all the time. I'll even walk huge distances across a city carrying something like that. And I just do it 100 meters at a time. And then when my arms are exhausted and I can't hold it anymore, I put it down on the ground, wait for a few minutes, pick it back up, do another 100 meters, and I'll slowly make my way to wherever I want to go. I'm that dumb. I just don't like that transportation hassle. I don't like dealing with taxi drivers, Baycheck drivers, arguing about the price, figuring out where they're going. I don't like all that chaos. So most of the time, I just walk wherever it is I want to go. So I was going to do that yesterday as well. And I knew it was like 1.1 kilometers, and I knew exactly how to get there. But then I got out of the train station, and I couldn't. Like the normal route where you just turn to the left and walk past the train station, that was a massive construction zone. So the only way for me to go anywhere was to walk in a square all the way around this massive park, this massive construction zone. Before I could start making my way to the hotel, I had to walk all the way around this thing. And of course, it was busy, chaos, traffic, construction, dark. It really felt like I was in the middle of a B detective movie, and I was the guy that's going to get killed at the beginning of the movie. And a couple of people walked by me. There's one man in particular. He walked by me and he looked really, really concerned. And then he stopped and waited for me to catch up to him. And he just kind of looked at me and he spoke a bit of English. And he says, "So, sir, are you okay? Are you all right?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Hey, where are you from? Canada?" "Oh, Canada. Yes, Canada." "And are you alone?" "Yeah, I'm alone." "And where are you going?" I said, "Well, to my hotel." And we're at the side of this road, which had like there's nothing there. Like there's no sidewalk. It's just a construction zone full of rocks and bricks and gaping holes and barbed wire. And the traffic is roaring past beside us, and it's dark. It's like someone's going to jump out of the darkness and knife you at any minute. And he's looking at me. "So you're alone?" He says, "Yeah." "And you're walking? You're walking?" "Yeah, my hotel is just over there." And in theory, like I said, my hotel was only 1 kilometer away, and I knew the route, so it was no big deal for me. But now that I had to go on this huge detour, the distance probably doubled, the complexity doubled, the stress doubled. And then this guy was very worried about me. So this is not right. And he finally left. And he says, "Please, sir, be careful. Be so careful." So he got me freaked out about being in the dark, alone, because I knew the walk to this hotel is not through a populated, well-lit area. I'm basically walking along the train tracks. And at that time, everything was going to be closed. And I mean, if you are going to be knifed, mugged, robbed in Medan, it feels like that's where it's going to happen. Yeah, and Medan has a reputation. When I was chatting with people through WhatsApp, friends of mine, one of them asked me, "Oh, tell me about the city of Medan. What's it like? I don't know anything about it." And I talked about the city a bit, and I said, well, it does have a reputation for being a dangerous place and being a bit grim and dirty and crowded and unpleasant. Medan does not have a good reputation, and in particular, it's considered an unsafe city. And I have that image. I've never had any trouble here. I've been here a lot, and I walk everywhere through deserted alleyways and in the dark, and I don't worry about it. I'm fine. But when everybody keeps looking at you like you're insane and they're worried for your safety, walking in the dark along the along the train tracks, holding this giant heavy bag in your arms, yeah, people worry about you. So it was quite a journey, much more difficult than I thought it would be. To be honest, as I was coming in, I was thinking I should probably hop in a Becak if there was one there. And I remembered from my other trips through this train station, that when you stepped outside, there was a crowd of men competing to drive you somewhere. Taxis, Becak, Gojek, motorcycles, they were all there. And then you could either engage one of them or just walk past them and say, "No, thank you, no, thank you." And I was thinking, I'd had a longer day than I thought I would. I was tired. I really wanted to get to the hotel, and I wasn't in the mood for the usual Planet Doug trudge through the dark, walking kilometers to get to my hotel. I really wasn't in the mood for it yesterday. So I thought, if I step outside and if a guy talks to me and he seems nice and the mood is right, the vibe is right, I'll just say, yeah, let's go. And whether it's a taxi, Becak, whatever, I'll hop in and I'll get driven to my hotel. So I was thinking that I might do it. But this time, because of that huge construction zone, every direction I wanted to go in was blocked. And when I stepped outside, there was nobody there. There were no Becak at all. I don't know where they were. So anyway, even if I wanted to take transportation, there was none waiting for me. So I just set off on foot anyway. And I thought it would be no problem. But by the time I finished going around the construction zone and I finally started, I basically went in a circle right back to the train station. So the whole thing was a complete waste of time in terms of there was a straight line from the train station to my hotel. You come out of the train station, turn left, and you go in a straight line. Boom, there's my hotel, 1 kilometer. But because of this giant construction zone, I had to go all the way I think it was like a kilometer at least, walking around it. And by the time I finished walking all the way around it, I was just right back at the train station. All I had done was go in a huge square, like kind of a circle, and gone all the way back to the train station. But now I was on the other side of the construction zone. And then I could finally, so by the time I got there, I was already exhausted. My arms were aching. My hands were in pain, and I was sweating like crazy. I'd worn long pants because I was going to be on a plane in airports. I wanted to look presentable. So I wore long pants, things like that. So I was pretty hot, and I was already sweating, sweat pouring down my face, my arms and hands covered in sweat, which makes it really difficult to hold on to this slippery plastic bag. I had to wrap my arms all the way around the bag and then link my fingers together like a chain in order to hold on, because I couldn't hold on to the bag anymore. They just slipped out of my hands because my arms and hands were so sweaty. Oh man, and I was really worried about my reading glasses, because when I met my mystery benefactor in Jakarta, one of the gifts he gave me was a really nice pair of Foster Grant triple lens, triple power reading glasses. And they're absolutely amazing. And I've had trouble with reading glasses because I break them when I do things like that, because I wear the glasses on a cord around my neck, and then I'll forget that they're there. So if I pick up a heavy bag in my arms, I instinctively hold the bag against my chest and crunch. I snap an arm off my reading glasses. So there I was actually, for this trip, I was wearing these brand new, really, probably, really nice Foster Grant reading glasses, much nicer than my normal, 7-Eleven reading glasses. And so for the very first time, I was using them in an actual normal environment for me, where it's around my neck, but I'm carrying heavy bags and I'm sweating and sweat is pouring. There's dirt and dust. And so these are the things that normally break whatever it is I'm using and snap my reading glasses. But anyway, I tried very, very hard to make sure that I did not break or damage or dirty these particular reading glasses. But it was a struggle, because by the time I got to my hotel, I was really having a hard time. And I had to keep putting the bag down over and over to readjust it, to move it from my right hip to my left hip. And yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. No, not even me. I should not have been doing this at all. Somehow, I should have arranged some kind of transportation. It was ridiculous to be doing that. But it is what I did. But yeah, what a contrast. You land at Kuala Namu and you'll go, wow, what a nice airport. Then you're going to land at the train station and you're going to go, man, what a horrible place. I mean, it's just, yeah, until they finish this construction, it's going to be even 10 times worse than normal. Yeah, it'd be nice to come back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whenever this construction is completed, and I can see what it was they're building. It feels like the whole train station, the whole thing needs to be torn down and rebuilt with a better design. I have no idea what they're doing, but it cannot get any worse, put it that way. But yeah. So, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but obviously, if you're listening to this, I'm recording this podcast with audio only. When I was in Jakarta, I recorded one of these behind-the-scenes journals on video. I just wanted to see whether that was a reasonable thing to do. I've been doing all audio recently, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of video, so I did shoot one in video. But, it was so much work Took so much time. It was exhausting. And for this kind of long form audio journal, podcast, whatever you want to call it, the only way it makes sense for me to do it would be if it's fast and easy and lightweight. So I think it has to be audio only. And then I'll just convert it to video to upload it to YouTube. But shooting it as video with a GoPro, honestly, it's too much work. Setting up the camera, draining all the batteries, filling up all the memory cards. And then when I was done, I recorded about 2 hours of video. And I had trouble, all kinds of trouble doing it. And then, of course, you have to be presentable on video. So I have to put on a shirt, and I've got to, you have to make sure that the video is lined up properly, and on and on and on. It's a lot of work just shooting it, plugging in the microphones into the GoPro. You have to test it to make sure that it's recording audio, that the levels are right. And then when you're done, I had to copy all of those video files to one of my phones, and eventually to my laptop, my new laptop. But I don't have the laptop set up for video editing yet. That's going to take a bit of time. So I had to copy everything to an external drive, and then copy everything from the drive to my phone. And that took like 45 minutes just to copy the video files. And then you have to edit all the video, and then exporting it took a long time. And then uploading, although the video file ended up being 30 gigabytes. I shot it in 1080p, 25 frames per second. So it was going to be as small as possible. But the exported video was still 30 gigabytes. And then it took an entire day to upload 30 gigabytes. So it's too much. All I'm doing is telling a little story about flying from Malaysia to Jakarta and all of my struggles with getting the apps and the SIM card and finding the. Well, I'm not like what I'm saying is I'm not talking about anything important. There's nothing so important that I need to spend an entire day working on the video and uploading it. So this morning when I woke up, I made a cup of coffee, and then for an audio, all I need to do is take my Rode Wireless Go, I push the power button, it turns on, I start talking. And I can get up, I can walk around, I can make another cup of coffee, I can do anything, and it's just fast. And the audio file is going to be like 100 megabytes in size. It's going to be super, super small. And copying it takes seconds, uploading it takes 1 minute. Everything is so much easier. So I think it has to be audio only with a static video screen. I can't shoot these using a GoPro or any camera, I don't think, unless I make them shorter and I talk less. My one concern about what I'm doing now with these podcasts is I'm not taking the time to add chapter headings with time codes, again, because it takes a long time to do that. And I don't want to, in order for me to do this, it just has to be fast and easy. So I have to control that. I don't want to get lost. Once I start uploading pictures, like if I'm talking about how nice the Kuala Namu airport is, of course my instinct would be, well, let's insert at least some photos of the airport. And if I talk about walking in the dark through this construction zone, well, show what it looks like. And I have pictures of it. But once I do that, then making this audio podcast will take all of today. It will take the entire day to do that, to add photos, to add text, to add video clips, to add chapters and time codes. Then it's an entire day of work, and it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, you're stuck with me babbling into a Rode microphone at the moment. And I will be uploading it to YouTube so it can be accessed on the Planet Doug Behind the Scenes channel as normal, but there won't be any video of me. It'll just be my voice playing in audio form. So, yeah, where shall I go with this story next? I guess since I'm telling the story of walking in the dark in Medan to this hotel, I should complete that story. Then I'll go back and talk about the flight. Yeah, this hotel, I had a good experience here last time. Though I remember when I booked it last time, there was a little bit of this element of you look at all the photographs online on Agoda. I booked it through Agoda, and then you see the picture. It's like, wow, what a nice looking place. Very bright, colorful pictures. The sign outside is nicely lit up, and the rooms look nice. Everything looks clean and new. But of course, the reality is quite different. You find that with most hotel listings. Everything looks much nicer in pictures. And then when you get there, you realize, oh, those pictures were taken 15 years ago, 20 years ago when the hotel was new. So I do remember showing up here the first time, and I had an image in my mind of what the hotel was going to look like based on the photos I saw. And then I turned down this alleyway, and I thought, what? It's down here? That doesn't make any sense. And I thought I must be in the wrong place. But then I walked down the alleyway, and then I was looking, so, oh, I think that must be it over there. But from the outside, it looked pretty bad. Nothing was bright, nothing was colorful. The sign was not lit up. There were no lights. It just looked like an abandoned building. So I thought, oh boy, that does not look like the pictures. And then the room itself last time, yeah, it was quite old. Everything was kind of broken, fallen apart, which is par for the course for a low-budget hotel. For a normal person on a holiday, no, you do not want to stay here. If you're traveling with children, with your family, with your wife, whoever, no, you do not want to stay here. This is designed for single men like myself, low-budget backpacker style living. They get a lot of salesmen here, or like men who are traveling for business, and they just need the cheapest place they can stay that still is, reasonable. So it's basically a sad place for sad, lonely, single men like myself, and my fellow traveling salesmen. Willie Loman would stay here, is what I'm saying. Actually, no, Willie Loman was married, wasn't he? He had a whole family. It's been a while since I read Death of a Salesman. But anyway, perfectly fine for me. But then when I showed up this time, it was a little bit of a rough arrival because I always feel embarrassed sometimes when I show up at these places, as I normally do, because I'm out of breath, because I just walked on this epic journey and I'm sweating. I've soaked through my shirt, my face is sweating, my arms are sweating, and I kind of feel weird walking into the hotel looking like that. It's like, what's up with this guy? But anyway, and they remembered me. I remembered them. The woman behind the counter was the same woman as before. There's a man who brought me up to my room. I remember him from before. And there were no formalities, which was nice. Nice change from, say, Malaysia with all that tourist tax nonsense, deposits being asked for, all that silliness, forms being filled out. Here, the woman looked up at me, and I guess because she knew me as well, she just looked up and, she doesn't speak English, but she said something in Indonesian. It was probably meant welcome back. And she did say in English, you have a booking. And I said, yes, I have a booking. And all I had to do was give her my passport. She took a picture of the passport, handed me the key to my room, a little key card. And that was it. And then the man brought me up to the room. And I did make a joke when I was talking with them, because it looks like they were trying to figure out which room to give me, like which rooms were available, which one. And I made a joke about, well, preferred customer here, how about I get the best room? You should give me the finest room you have. And I don't think they understood. But anyway, the guy brought me up here, and then he opened the door, and I put the key card in. He turned on, there's actually a TV in here, quite a new one it looks like. And there's a TV, air conditioner, Wi-Fi, couple bottles of water, some soap, shampoo, and little packets. It's got a little desk, kind of like a vanity, not like a work desk, more like a where you would sit to, I don't know, do your makeup or something. Big mirror above that desk, big double bed, a stool. The bathroom is a little bit awkward because it's small and the shower head aims right at the door. So, like the opening into the bathroom. So if you happen to leave that open, you'd basically be flooding the room because the shower would just spray water right onto the bed. So, and the door is not a door. It's one of those curtains, like a plastic curtain that you pull to the side, like a, not plastic exactly. Well, it is made out of plastic, but it's made out of hard plastic with little sections. I don't know what you call that thing, but anyway, you have to make sure you pull that behind you when you go in, because the water from the shower head blasts directly against it, and if it wasn't there, it would be spraying right onto the bed. And there's a sink, but the sink, it's kind of old school. The sink is not in the bathroom. It's actually against the wall. So you saw that design decades ago for some reason. It went out of fashion to have the toilet and shower in a separate room, but then the sink itself is outside the bathroom against the wall. And that's what they have here. And it can get pretty grim around that sink. I haven't looked too carefully, but I looked down at the little drain, and there's something there. I haven't. It's very dark in that corner, and maybe that's a good thing because you don't really want to look too carefully. There's something very gooey and nasty down there in that sink, but But I knew all of that. That was exactly like my other room that I had before. And then, of course, everything is kind of broken. You don't really want to move anything too much because everything's going to snap off. And then he left. And then, so I went into the room. He was gone. I closed the door. But then it hit me. The smell, cigarette smoke. It's just overwhelming. It's just, I don't really want to breathe through my nose at all because the odor of baked in, seeped in decades of smokers staying in this room is just awful. It's really, really bad. And had I noticed the smell right at the beginning when he showed me the room, because I wasn't in the room yet, I'm almost definite I would have stopped him and said, okay, no, can I get a different room? This is too much, even for me. I mean, I can put up with a lot, but this stale, baked in cigarette smoke smell, I mean, it's the nastiest thing. I often wonder whether smokers notice it. Like if a smoker took this room, and would it be like he smells and goes, cigarettes. Like, does he like that smell? I find it very hard to believe. I mean, I get the appeal of cigarette smoke itself. It bothers me, like if someone is smoking in another room, which is kind of weird. If someone is smoking in another room and the smoke seeps into the hallway and then under my door into my room, my body reacts powerfully. Like I have an allergic reaction to it. My eyes just burn like they're on fire. Yet, if I'm standing beside someone who is smoking, or sitting at the same table, and if someone who smokes says to me, "Oh, do you mind if I smoke?" I always say, "No, I don't mind. Go ahead," because it doesn't bother me when I'm standing right beside the person. I mean, cigarette smoke doesn't smell bad at all. I'm sure smokers, they love the smell of tobacco. It's a good smell. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. But when I'm right beside a smoker, it smells fine. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't make my eyes burn. Doesn't affect my throat. Doesn't do anything. But if the smoke seeps into my room from someone who's smoking out in the hallway, for some reason, my body reacts like it's poison. My throat becomes sore. It seizes up. My eyes start burning. I really hate it. But luckily, I don't think I'm having that effect here. It's like the smell in this room is not active smoke. It's whatever is, like, where is it? Is it in the mattress? Is it in the furniture? I guess it's everywhere. But yeah, it's a pretty nasty smell. But anyway, I figured, if I do ask for a different room, chances are it's going to be the same. It's going to smell like smoke too. So that's what you get sometimes in one of these low budget hotels if they don't enforce any kind of a no smoking policy. Oddly enough, I kind of like the hotels that have separate rooms, and then if they keep them separate, that's fine. Like, oh, smoking or non-smoking. I think at Zest, the hotel I stayed in Jakarta, I think they asked me, yeah, they did, as part of the check-in procedure, smoking or non-smoking. And I'm like, oh, yeah, non-smoking room, please. And then it's fine because you're separated from the smokers and nobody smokes in the hallway. So, like, if they have smoking rooms, people smoke inside their rooms, I guess. But in other hotels where they say no smoking in the rooms, then the smokers go out into the hallways. They put like trash cans out there, like ashtrays. And then they're all standing in the hallway smoking. And then the smoke seeps into my room, and that's when my eyes start burning. So, yeah. Anyway, this room smells pretty bad. And I thought I would get used to it very quickly, but this morning when I woke up and started breathing in deeply, it was just like, oh, I didn't want to breathe. It's powerful, yeah. But hey, that is life. And I think I'm noticing it in particular. I'm reacting to this hotel and this hotel room the way I am, partially because I just came from a much nicer hotel, the Zest Hotel. I mean, it's like night and day. And so going from a real hotel to this one, in like just one to the next, then it's a real step down in life. It's quite something. And then you pick up on all of these things. And I'll have to, my mystery benefactor, he booked the hotel for me, Zest, and paid for 2 nights for me. And that was very kind of him, but I don't know how much it cost. I'll have to look that up because I'm wondering, I did see something online. Maybe if I call it up on Google Maps real quickly, maybe I can get kind of an Agoda listing for this hotel, the Zest. There it is, Zest Airport, Jakarta, by Swiss Bell Hotel. Huh. And the listing at the front is 400,000 rupiah. I'm curious if that carries over to Agoda, because it usually doesn't. You know, they'll give you that cheaper price as an advertisement, but then when you go looking, of course, the price gets higher and higher and higher. But I've just clicked on Agoda for that hotel, and I have Agoda currently set to rupiah, and it's listed as 106 rupiah, and let's see what kind of a room that is. Yeah, queen room. So that, as far as I can tell, is, yeah, queen room, twin room, 106 ringgit. And that, how many rupiah is that? 106. So we're talking about, yeah, okay, 377,000 rupiah. Wow. Okay. To be honest, that's a much, much better price than I was expecting. Because in terms of value for money, that is way better. That is a much better deal. Because I think about this all the time, that I'm sort of mentally stuck with this idea that, idea of staying in low budget hotels, because that's what you did in the old backpacking days. You didn't even stay in real hotels. There were, people with money, tourists on vacation. They stayed in hotels. And then there was an entire world of backpacker hotels. And you would get a room without a bathroom, without air conditioning, without a TV. It's basically a mattress and a fan and a window if you're lucky. And then your bathroom would be down the hall. And these rooms would cost anywhere from $2 a night to $5 a night. And that's part of my mentality. That's what I think of as what it's like to go traveling. As a backpacker, that is what these backpacker hotels are all clustered around the train station, around the bus station, places like that. And then they'd all be listed in the Lonely Planet guidebook, and that is where you stayed. And then you stayed in these places because you saved a lot of money. So you could spend $3 a night in one of these backpacker hotels, but if you jumped up to something like the Zest Hotel, then it'd be like $50 a night or something. It was like a big jump in price. So the backpacker style living was the best value for someone like me at that time. But the world has changed dramatically, and these backpacker hotels don't seem to exist anymore. I'm not doing a whole lot of traveling, to be honest, like going to new places all the time. I mean, I was in Bangladesh, and then Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, Sumatra. But none of those places offered backpacker hotels anymore. I couldn't find them anywhere. Even in Thailand, you were forced to stay in like a 2-star hotel where your room was a double room with a bathroom, with hot water, with air conditioning. You had no choice. That was the minimum level. You couldn't go lower than that. And this hotel is the same, right? Bathroom, kind of hot water, air conditioning. So this is far higher than a backpacker style hotel from the old days. But it's, when you compare it to the Zest, very poor value now that I think about it. Because what did I end up paying here? Forgive me for doing this while I'm talking. There's nothing worse than watching someone surf the internet. And then, right now I'm surfing Agoda. So I'm not sure what I paid for this place. The Wisma Sederhana Budget Hotel. I can't see it there. So maybe, let's look online. Google Maps will give me a listing with a price. Oh, okay, no, it is. Okay, that is cheaper than I thought. Okay, 150,000 rupiah. So, okay, 43 ringgit by the time you're done. So it's 1/3 the price of Zest. Now, I was thinking, for some reason, I paid 250. And then I was thinking, wow, if this room costs 250 and the Zest costs like 370, then staying at the Zest is a much better deal, because the breakfast alone is worth 70,000 rupiah. Really, really nice breakfast that comes with the room. So really, you're paying 300,000 for the room, and then for an extra, say, 50,000 rupiah, wow, I mean, you get so much more. Well, you get the free transport to the airport. So by the time you factor in all the benefits that you get at a place like Zest, it's much, much better value. You get much more for your money. But I just realized that it's about 1/3 the price, almost like 1/3. So what I'm paying here. And there's one other difference, and people might argue with me about that, but one thing I noticed when I stayed 2 nights at the Zest, And I guess it's a little bit unfair to make this comparison because the Zest is an airport transfer hotel. That's what it's designed to do. People land at the airport and they want to stay in a hotel basically at the airport. They're not interested in anything else. They need to spend one night and then go back to the airport to get their next flight. But one thing I noticed staying at Zest, I was completely cut off from Indonesia. You're inside this big compound and you're not in a neighborhood. So I never left. I never went out the front gates of the hotel. And it was partially because I was spending time with my mystery benefactors, and I was quite busy while I was there. But when you stay in a hotel like this one, like my experience landing yesterday at the train station and then walking here, checking into this hotel, and then I'm in the heart of Indonesia. I mean, you are in the thick of it. So it has a very real experience. There's no barriers between you and the country. So for my money, like even if I had a lot of money, like enough to pay for really nice hotels, I would still stay in this kind of hotel. I might put my foot down at the smoke room, like this one. It's a bit much, but it's a more interesting experience. The 2 nights I spent at Zest Hotel, I might as well have been in Toronto. I might as well have been in San Francisco. You're just at an airport hotel, and the everybody speaks English. The service is immaculate. Everything is perfect. Everything is nice. And then you never go outside. You don't really have an experience of being in the country of Indonesia. At least it feels that way to me. But when you stay in a low budget hotel in the crowded alleyways near the bus station, near the train station, well, yeah, you're thrown into the deep end, and you feel like you're having a very real overseas experience. So there is that side of it as well. So, yeah, here I am in the Wisma Sederhana Hotel. So that's the story of the hotel. I'm going to make a second cup of coffee, and I'll come back and tell the story of the flight to get here. I am back with a fresh cup of coffee. And I have a little bit of a behind-the-scenes YouTube story before I talk about my flight, because I woke up to an interesting email from YouTube. You get these from time to time, so it's nothing new. But I got an email that said the subject line something like, "This video cannot be monetized." So I was like, oh, I wonder what that's all about. So I click on the email, and apparently there's a video I shot in it was in Bangladesh. Yeah, boy, even I can't remember whether it was Myanmar or Bangladesh. I know, I was pretty sure it was Bangladesh. I got a haircut in Bangladesh, and I shot a video about that experience. It was quite the adventure getting that haircut. And then I put in some sort of a time lapse or high speed segment, and I played the Barber of Seville music, the classic barbershop music. And I remember at the time looking for it, and because it's free of copyright, right? That song is not copyrighted. It was, from so long ago, whatever. If the copyright didn't exist back in those days, but all that sort of classical music is not copyrighted. But there is a little bit of a loophole there, that the version of classical music performed by a particular symphony orchestra, something like that, is copyrighted. So, for example, you could use Beethoven's Fifth in your video. That isn't copyrighted. But if the algorithm, the massive YouTube computers that do this, their content ID system, if they recognize it as a particular performance done by the New York Philharmonic on December 3rd, 1972 or whatever, then they copyright it, and you get hit with a content ID claim. And they say, okay, now that whole video, it's now our video because you used a little bit of our music. We claim your entire video. And these things are not a huge deal for me because my YouTube channel is not a great money maker. And one video in particular from years ago is not exactly making money. So now that this company claims it as their video, it's not a big deal. But I do find it funny and I find it annoying. It's annoying, of course, because of how it shows that YouTube favors corporations over people. I mean, when YouTube started, the whole idea was for people to be able to post home movies, things, share things with their friends. I mean, it was a very personal sort of experience, YouTube, back in those days. But of course, over time, as it became popular, the corporations just took it over and it became entirely based on advertising. And now, from YouTube's point of view, they are concerned about the big companies. And if it ever comes to a conflict between someone like me, a sole individual YouTuber, and a company that just says, oh, that's ours, they just give it to the company. I mean, there's almost no question about it. So I do find it a little bit annoying from that point of view. And it seems like it's so sensitive. I remember I had a couple of videos from Thailand where I was recording a video like this, like a behind the scenes thing, or I'm walking down the street, and then way off in the distance, so far away that I didn't even notice it, there was music playing in some sort of like a store or something. They had speakers set up, or a coffee shop, and they were playing music. And when I listen to the video, I don't even hear it. I can't even tell what song it is. I can't make out the melody. It's that far away and it's that distance. But of course, the YouTube computers are more powerful than the human ear. It picked out a melody, a few seconds of this melody, identified the song, and slap. You know, they slap you with a content ID claim. And then that entire video now belongs to whatever millionaire corporation owns the rights to that song. And I do find the balance of power to be annoying, in the sense of all the power lies in the corporations. And that can be a little bit annoying. But I also find it funny because these copyright claims come up years later. And I'm wondering why now, because I just posted a video from Sumatra where I got a haircut. And now my haircut video from Bangladesh gets hit with a copyright claim. So, like, how did that happen? I mean, that video has been up for years, playing the Barber of Seville, and just now they're deciding that that's a copyright infringement. What happened? And is it a coincidence that I just posted a haircut video and then I got a copyright claim on an older haircutting video? Did posting a haircut video trigger YouTube to go scouring my history looking for other haircut videos? It's just weird timing. And the other thing that strikes me as funny about all this is that the whole system on YouTube, this copyright about music system, is designed to protect, they say, that it's designed to protect the artists, the singers, the people who wrote the song, who performed the song. You can't use their work for your own financial gain. I mean, that in theory, that's the principle here. They're protecting the artists. And yet, the result of this law, of this content ID system, is to actually remove all music from YouTube. So they're sort of trying to protect music. And then what they've done is create a platform where music doesn't exist, where music can't exist. Do you see what I mean? There's kind of an irony there that the law is designed to protect music, and yet all they've done is create this space where nobody uses music. You're just not allowed to insert your favorite music into your video. You can't promote your favorite rock and roll bands. I mean, of course, obviously I can't use music from the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or the Who or Led Zeppelin or Bob Seger or Bruce, any music that I might listen to in my normal day-to-day life and I might want to put it into my videos. I actually cannot use any music in my videos. So it's just weird that in protecting music, they've created this artificial online world where there is no music. And you hear YouTubers talk about it all the time. They say, oh, I'm sorry, I have to mute this section because there's music playing. And they have to do something else. Oh, I had to delete this section because there was music. Oh, I wanted to shoot some video inside this train station or inside this coffee shop or inside this restaurant or market. But no, I can't record anything here because there's music playing. So they've created this artificial world where music doesn't exist. And yet their idea was to protect music. Yeah, very, very weird. Really, really kind of funny. Kind of ironic, as they say. So, the flight to come here from Jakarta, as I mentioned earlier, I booked a flight on Super Airjet. And I did something I'd never done before. I booked it through Agoda. And I don't know why I did that. I was online and I was trying to. I don't have a lot of experience with booking flights, to be honest. For years and years now, I've just been based in Malaysia and surrounding countries, and AirAsia always flew to wherever I wanted to go. So as far as I know, I've only flown AirAsia for the last 5 or 6 years. I've never used another airline. And despite spending a lot of time living overseas, I'm not really a great traveler. I tend to go to one place, spend a long time in that one place. So it's not like I'm flying every day, flying every week to a new city, new country, new country. I tend to stay put. So I don't have a lot of experience booking flights. I really don't. So now that I was flying from Jakarta to Medan, it was kind of a new experience for me. It's like, oh, okay, I'm probably not going to fly AirAsia this time. There were AirAsia flights, but they all went through Kuala Lumpur. So the flight would go to Malaysia first, to the hub, and then go from there to Medan, and then there were like 10-hour layovers in the airport in Kuala Lumpur. So that didn't make a lot of sense. So I wasn't really looking at AirAsia flights, so I thought, well, how do people book flights if they're not on AirAsia? Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with this. I have an app installed called Skyscanner that someone recommended to me one time. So I went to Skyscanner and I entered my dates and I want to fly from here to here. And I'm looking at all the options there. And I was looking at the prices. And then it occurred to me that, oh, you know what? Because I was worried about using my credit card through another app, and the one that is unfamiliar to my bank in Canada, that might set off red flags. Or booking directly with the airline. I tend to run into problems when I do that because my bank will block anything it sees as an unfamiliar transaction. But my bank is very accustomed to me booking hotel rooms through Agoda and charging it to a credit card. So I thought, oh, why? And Agoda, you can book a flight on Agoda, right? So I went to Agoda, and the prices there for the same flights were exactly the same as the ones on Skyscanner. So this aggregator Skyscanner wasn't giving me better prices. So I figured, well, if my credit card is already hooked into Agoda and everything works there smoothly, I might as well book my flight on Agoda. It's the same price as far as I could tell. And then they hit me with this idea of, oh, would you like to bundle? And I'd never done that before either. And I thought, oh, bundle. And they hooked me because they says, oh, you can save a lot of money by bundling. You book your flight and your hotel room as part of a package. And of course, they tricked me because at the beginning they said something like, if you book this hotel, this one, Wisma, Sederhana, and the flight, you will save, and they said like 170 ringgit. And I'm looking at that going, wow, that's a big savings. I thought, okay, let's do that. So I ended up booking the flight and the hotel as a bundle on Agoda. But of course, I didn't save 170 ringgit. Nothing like that would even be possible. It was exactly the same price. Like had I booked the flight and the hotel separately, it would have come to the exact same amount. But of course, what they do is they just jiggle with the numbers, and they claim that this is the real price, 1,000 ringgit, but you're getting it for this much. So you saved 170 ringgit. But of course, they're just picking numbers out of thin air. Another example where corporations can do things that humans can't do. They can lie, they can make things up, they can deceive, they can create rules that basically take money away from you. They can do anything they want, that you as a human being, if you did those things, you would either be in jail or you would be disliked, as you would be seen as a very dishonest person. You'd be seen as a thief. But corporations, of course, they can do whatever they want. As you can tell, I have a thing about big business, one of my pet peeves. But anyway, they said I saved all this money, but of course I didn't. But it was fun to do. I'm going to bundle, hey, a new thing. So I bundled the hotel and the flight, and I chose Super Airjet. I had a choice between Lion Air and Super Airjet. It turns out Super Airjet is owned by the Lion Group, so it's the same company anyway. But they made it sound like it's two different airlines. And according to what I read online, Super Airjet is targeting the young, hip, digital crowd. And that's what they say anyway. Based on the passengers on my flight, there was no different from any other flight. It was just a bunch of people, just regular people. There was nothing hip or young or cool about me or anybody else on that flight that I could tell. If I'd gone on Lion Air, I'm sure the people flying on that plane would have been exactly the same as the people on Super Airjet. There did seem to be some elements where I can see that they kind of packaged it, perhaps to appeal to a young, hip crowd. So, for example, the flight attendants, they were all women. I noticed that. Yeah, there were no men at all. All women, all very young, very attractive, and their uniforms were young and hip. So rather than skirts or dresses, anything traditional, the uniform for the flight attendants were pants, and very, very tight-fitting pants, and then kind of a blouse and a jacket. But it looked like young clothing for young people, all very, very, youthful and young and tight-fitting and form-fitting. So there's that. And then when I sat down in my seat, I noticed in front of me there was a QR code that was something about scan this code, get access to all these hip online streaming services. You can watch the latest shows, latest movies, whatever. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work. I've seen all kinds of promises on airlines and things like that where you just scan the code and you have internet access. It's never worked for me, so I'm not quite sure what that is all about. I didn't even bother trying because I was really tired for some reason, and I just wanted to close my eyes for the whole 2-hour flight. And if I wanted to watch a TV show or something, I can just use my own devices. I could use a tablet or something. I don't need online streaming to do that. So those two elements, the uniforms of the flight attendants and this QR code to get streaming services, that seems sort of like targeting the young, hip, cool crowd. But other than that, it just seemed to be the same as any other airline. But yeah, Super Airjet. And the one weird thing about this whole experience for me was, well, everything, I guess, because when I fly, I always fly internationally. So I associate flights and airports with going to a new country, which is very stressful, which involves visas, which involves immigration, customs, online apps, filling out forms, changing money. It's a whole big deal. So a certain amount of stress builds up, and I'm always somewhere far away from the airport, so I have to think about getting there. So I want to, it's going to take an hour and a half to get to the airport, and I want to get there at least 2 hours early. I like to get there 3 hours early because I do not like rushing. So I've got all of this going on, and yet my situation in Jakarta was completely different, and it didn't really sink in. My airport hotel was right beside the airport, So it's really like 10 minutes away from the terminal. And it turned out that, I mean, I had a lot of trouble getting the shuttle bus from the airport to the hotel because there was nobody I could talk to. There was no counter, there was no airport shuttle bus place where I could go and sign up and get information and wait. I didn't know what to do, so I just wandered around the airport completely clueless. Okay, I know there is a shuttle bus to my hotel, but where is it and how do I get it? It was completely beyond me. I didn't know how to do it. But when you're in the hotel, well, it starts at the hotel, and you just go up to the front desk and say, and they have a schedule there. There's a bus, a shuttle bus going to the airport at every 5 minutes after the hour, like 8:05, 9:05, 10:05, 11:05. So you just speak to the lovely young woman behind the desk and you say, oh, can I get a seat on the shuttle bus at 11:05? She makes a note in her system and you're all done. And it leaves at exactly 11:05. And 10 minutes later, you're at Terminal 1A, which is where I needed to be. So getting to the airport, I was thinking, I mean, instinctively, I'm thinking it's going to be a big, long, exhausting process and it's going to take an hour and a half. And yet I was there in 10 minutes. So I got there way too early. And I was I don't know, deep down in my lizard brain, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be customs and immigration and all these things I'm going to need to do. But no, this is a domestic flight, dummy. It's completely different. You don't have to go through immigration. There is no customs. In theory, it's like taking a train, taking a bus now. But the thing is, I never fly domestically. I can't even remember the last time I did it. I fly into a country, international flight, and then when I'm in that country, I'm either traveling by train or by bus or by bicycle or by scooter. I never fly. I cannot remember the last time I took a domestic flight. I think, yeah, I can't remember. To be honest, at this point, I don't remember if I have ever done it. It could be that in my lifetime, I have never taken a flight in another country, a domestic flight. It's possible. I must have done it, but I can't remember it. So this was a brand new experience for me. So I arrive at the airport way, way, way too early. And then I go into the terminal right away, and I show the guard my e-ticket. Oh, that was another big adventure. I got to back up because whenever I'm booking on Air Asia, everything is streamlined and automated, right? You book on Air Asia. I'm using the Air Asia app. You've got the confirmation, and there's a button that says, oh, would you like to check in online? Oh, yes, please, I would like to. You click on the button, and then you check in online. Oh, would you like download the e-boarding pass? Yes, please, I'd like to do that. I click. Everything is just right there, and you go from step to step to step. Book the ticket, check in online, download the e-boarding pass, and you're done. But now that I bundled a flight and a hotel room on Agoda, I ran into a dead end. There was nowhere to go after that. I was like, okay, I've paid for this flight, but do I actually have it? Like, where's my ticket? I didn't get anything. And now do I need to check in online? And with Air Asia, of course, you don't automatically get luggage and meals and seat selection. You have to pay for all those things if you want them. It's separate. But this Super Airjet, the ticket was automatic. It came with 15 kilograms of checked luggage, and I guess it came with seat selection. But none of it was there. So I booked it on Agoda, and then nothing happened after that. I paid for it, and then I didn't know what to do next. And I thought, okay, well, this is weird, And I'm chalking this up to inexperience on my part because I'm not really that experienced with these sorts of things. So I was like, I don't know what to do. There was no button to click on Agoda. Okay, now do you want to check in online for your flight? Oh, would you like to select your seat? Oh, would you like to buy extra luggage? There was nothing. Would you like an in-flight meal? There was no buttons to click on. I didn't know what to do. It was the strangest thing. So then I'm stumbling around, and then I go to the Super Airjet website, thinking, okay, maybe I have to go to Super Airjet, log in somehow, and then I can do all these things. But I couldn't do anything on Super Airjet either. There was no online check-in, there was no seat selection, there was like nothing at all. And I went around and around and around and around. I couldn't find anything. So I mean, I'm such a dummy. I don't know what to do now. Doug, the world traveler, and I haven't got a clue how to book a flight even. It was so strange. And I gave up for a few days, actually. I mean, I did all this, I think when I was still in Malaysia. Yeah, I did it when I was in Malaysia. And I couldn't get beyond this point, so I just sort of gave up on it because I had lots of other stuff to do. And then I flew to Jakarta, and I figured I had 2 days before the flight to figure all this out, and I just kept putting it off. And I eventually I did more and more and more research trying to figure out, I'm typing in like Google searches, like, how do I check in for my Super Airjet domestic flight? Dumb things like that. And I eventually found the information that you have to do that using an app. Of course, there's an app. You can't do it on the Super Airjet website. Crazy as it sounds, there is no online check-in at the website. And I found out, no, if you want to check in online, first you have to download the app. And it's not even the Super Airjet app, because I went looking for the Super Airjet app, but it doesn't exist. It's a special app called Book Cabin. Why it's called Book Cabin, I don't know. But it turns out like Book Cabin is like an umbrella app for the Lion group of airlines, I think. So I had to download Book Cabin, install it on my phone, and then with that app, I could enter my name and my flight booking number and all of that. And then it called up my flight, and then I was able to check in online. It was so complicated. I guess it's not complicated, but if you don't know, yeah, it's complicated. I didn't know I had to download an app in order to check in for my flight. But I did it, and I got that done, and I chose a seat. I chose an aisle seat this time, just so I would have easy access to a bathroom. I won't be trapped at the window this time. I'm still sipping my coffee number 2. So, yeah, then I had an e-ticket, and I guess I had an e-boarding pass, but I don't know, it didn't look very official. It didn't look very real, but I had it. And then I used my e-ticket to get past the guard, go into the domestic terminal 1A. And then the really funny thing happened. This group of young women just descended on me. And they're like waiting on the inside, and they're talking to me a mile in a minute, and they seemed to be speaking English, but I had a hard time figuring out what they were talking about. And I didn't know who they were at the time, but then they came running up to me. Oh, sir, what airline are you on? I thought they were official airport helpers, that they were there to guide me to the proper desk, to whatever. And they say, oh, sir, what airline are you on? And I'm telling them, and where are you going to? And, oh, can we see your boarding pass, your ticket, sir? So I'm handing over everything to these women, and I'm just, okay, here's my ticket, and here's my e-ticket, and here it is on my phone, and this, that, the other thing. And then they look at it, and she looked up at me in surprise, and her eyes go wide. She's like, so early. You're serious? Because this was in the morning still, and my flight wasn't until mid-afternoon. And she looks up at me, why are you here so early? You have hours and hours and hours before your flight. And I'm like, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know why I'm here. I could have stayed in the hotel until checkout time, and I could have relaxed there, and 10 minutes on the shuttle bus, I would have been. I didn't know any of these things. My brain was on autopilot, so I ended up at the airport really, really early. But it turned out she was very pleased that I was there early, because it turned out that all these women work for something called the Blue Sky Lounge. And I guess there is a lounge at the terminal, a special place where you can pay money, a fee, and then you can go into the lounge and you can relax in comfort. And I guess when they were talking to me in English, they were telling me about all the amazing things that are in the lounge. I don't know what's there because I didn't understand a word they said, but maybe you can get something to eat, something to drink, massages, this, that, the other. I don't know what's in there. Comfortable reclining chairs. And she kept saying one thing in particular I thought was important, and I finally leaned over. She's very, very, not a very tall young woman, so I leaned over and said, "So, what are you saying there exactly?" And I tried to repeat what she was saying, and it turns out what she was saying was $10. Ah, okay. And then she said very slowly, $10. I was like, oh. So at first I thought she was telling me that my ticket comes with access to the Blue Sky Lounge. And I thought, well, that's weird. Maybe bundling on Agoda was actually a good thing, and maybe I got all these perks. But no, she was just saying, okay, there's no you have to pay. It's $10, and the Indonesian equivalent. She told me how much that was, but I can't remember. And then I can wait. Since I'm there so early, it would be a big advantage for me to stay in the Blue Sky Lounge. But of course, not of course, but I should say, yes, of course, I didn't do that. I'm not a Blue Sky Lounge kind of person. And now, since I had all of this extra time, I just figured I would wander around the airport. I would go exploring, find a nice coffee shop. And instead of $10 for the lounge, I'll just buy a simple cup of coffee and hang out and, do my thing, do my Planet Doug thing. But then it turned out that inside the terminal, I couldn't check in yet anyway because my counters weren't open. Maybe they were, but I guess maybe I put too much trust in the Blue Sky women because I think everything they were telling me was designed to guide me into the Blue Sky Lounge. So, of course, they were telling me, oh, no, the check-in isn't even open yet. You can't do anything yet. You have to wait for a couple of hours before you can even check in for your flight. Well, I mean, not check in. I already checked in, but drop off my bag. So I was stuck with my bag, my luggage, the whole time because I wouldn't be able to get rid of it. Turns out maybe that wasn't even true. Maybe I could have done it, but I just believed them. And then, so what I did was I just turned around and went back out because inside the terminal building where I was, if I wasn't able to get rid of my bag and then go through the airport to my departure area, there was nothing there. I would just be sitting on a cold bench for a couple of hours. So I thought, well, I don't want to hang out here for a couple of hours. So then I tried to leave. But of course, once you go into an airport, you've gone through security. Getting back out again is not that easy. But I eventually found a door where they let me back out into the real world. And then I walked up and down the whole airport. It was like a huge circular area. Only Terminal 1A was open, but I guess there's Terminal 1B and then 2A and 2B and 3. Goes out in this huge semicircle, and none of the other ones were open. Only mine seemed to actually be in working condition. But I just walked all the way up and down that whole area, just looking around, just checking out the place, seeing what's there. And then I found a place where I could sit down. I got a little carton of milk, and I was doing Patreon stuff and other things. So that's what I did for a while. And then it was finally time. I figured, okay, now I think I can get rid of my luggage at the very least, drop off my bag. And then as I was walking back, I passed by these automated check-in machines. And I started using them in Kuala Lumpur all the time. So I felt like I was kind of a master. And I saw on one of the machines, there was a sign that said baggage or luggage tag. You can print out your baggage tag or your luggage tag. And I thought, oh, okay. I got lots of time. Why don't I just see whether I can do this or not? So I went up to one of these machines. And of course, that turned out how you would expect. For one thing, it was out in the open, like in the open air. And it was really hard to see the screen because of the sunlight. It was way too bright. I think the screens had been damaged by direct sunlight and stuff like that. So really, really dim, hard to see. And I couldn't really figure out the system. And they had this weird thing where after like 3 seconds, a big sign would pop up on the screen, like something about like I waited too long to get to the next stage, and it was like, "Do you want to continue or cancel? Continue or cancel?" I'm like, I haven't even gotten started yet. And I'm like, continue. I want to keep going. And then I'm looking at the screen. I'm trying to read it. It's so dim, I can't figure it out. I'm trying to type in my name, but I keep hitting the wrong keys because I can't see them. I got to bend way over to get the right angle on the screen. And I'm taking so long that this big screen came up again. Continue or cancel? Would you like to continue with this operation, or would you? And when that screen comes up, I can't see anything anymore. So I'm like, no, continue, continue, continue. This came up over and over. It was so annoying. It was like, would that screen please just go away? And then I went through everything I was capable of doing, put in my name, and then it asked for a booking number, but I didn't know which booking number was my booking number. On the thing that I had on my phone, the QR code or the barcode, it didn't have any information about my flight, the time of the flight, anything. It was just a barcode. So now I had to go into my email and find the emails that I got that contained information about my flight. And there's a whole bunch of numbers. There's a booking number, there's this number, there's like, I forget the name of it. There's like a QRV number. And then the machine was asking me for my number, but I didn't know which number it wanted. So I just started at the top, and I started with my booking number. I thought, well, that must be it. So I'm trying to type in my booking number, but I barely got two numbers in, and then the screen comes up. Oh, would you like to cancel this transaction, or would you like to continue? It's like, continue. Just leave me alone, would you, you dumb machine? And then I tried to put in that number, but it wouldn't go in because that number was too long, apparently, and it took a while to figure that out. I thought I was making a mistake, but it turns out there was a certain number of characters allowed in that number that they were asking for, and the one I was putting in was too long. So then I just went to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. I didn't know which number they wanted because the identifier didn't match anything on my ticket. But I finally found this like 6-letter code. I think it was all letters, no numbers, and it was just 6 of them, I think. And then that one worked. And then as soon as I put that in, the machine came to life, and it printed out a boarding pass, like a paper boarding pass, which is fine. I was happy to get a paper boarding pass. It's easier than constantly trying to show people my phone. Because, every time you hand over your phone, you accidentally touch the screen, which closes that window, or you hand it over, and then the screen rotates from portrait to landscape, and it disappears, and you can't read it. Anyway, it's not that easy sometimes using your phone. So I was happy to get a boarding pass, but I didn't go up to the machine to get a boarding pass. I was trying to get a luggage tag, because that's what it said. So I started all over again, and I went through the whole process, but at no point was there an option to get a baggage tag. It just didn't exist on this machine. It wasn't capable of doing it, but it did have a sign on the front. They said you can get a boarding pass here and you can get your baggage tag here. But you can't. You can't get a baggage tag. And I looked around, I noticed that nobody was getting baggage tags. And there was nothing in the menu system that allowed you to do that. So it's like, okay. But I was happy to get my boarding pass, and I had plenty of time, so I didn't mind hanging out there, just learning how to use a new machine. Our machine overlords, in the future, you might as well make friends with them when you can. This machine could turn out to be the newest Terminator, and he'll remember me from this interaction and won't kill me when the robotic wars begin in the future. So I have my boarding pass, walking towards the entrance to the departure, and then outside the airport, the Blue Sky women found me. So now these Blue Sky women come running up to me outside. Sir, where are you going? Where's your flight to? Can we see your boarding pass, please? And me being a dummy, I still really hadn't figured out who they were yet. I thought they were official airport people. And I handed over my boarding pass, and she's looking at it. Oh, so early, sir, so early. How about going to the Blue Sky Lounge? And she's telling me all about the Blue Sky Lounge again. I'm like, thank you, but no, I'm just going to drop off my bag. So then I go back through security, same security guard, Last time he looked at my phone, but this time I had a boarding pass I could give him, paper one. I went inside. As soon as I came through the door, boom, this like flock of Blue Sky Lounge women descended on me again. And, sir. And this time I was starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I did not hand over my passport and my boarding pass and my ticket and all that stuff. I knew they were not official airline people at this point, and I just said to them politely, "No, I'm not interested in the Blue Sky Lounge. I'm just going to drop off my bag." "So early, sir, so early, too early. Why don't you?" So, anyway, then came the next adventure. Man, oh man. All I needed to do was drop off my bag. So I found the Super Airjet area. There's Air Asia desks and Super Airjet desks. But there was nothing about my particular destination. Like it wasn't listed like flight 888 to Medan, drop off your bags here. And I wasn't sure whether I could do it myself. Like, was this self drop off or did a human have to help me? Because I saw some ticket counters, there was nobody there. There was no staff. And some there were staff. And I wasn't sure which lineup I should go into. I had to figure all that out. But I eventually figured out and I made the decision that, yeah, I think I need a human being to get me through this process. And I stood in line, one of the very crowded, lots and lots of people in front of every gate, every ticket counter. And the amount of luggage people had, oh my gosh. I'm always a little bit sensitive about that topic because I usually carry a lot of stuff. I travel heavy. My backpack will be big and heavy. My bicycle bags will be big and heavy. And now I'm lugging around this ridiculous plastic cube that I put together with rope. And it always feels like I should join the modern world, all these people that seem to go around the world with 7 kilograms. But anyway, in this lineup, I was the light traveler. There were people there, like individual people had 2 massive luggage carts piled up with box after box after suitcase after suitcase after box after box. They were moving entire households to Sumatra. And I saw that pattern everywhere. So many people in line had so much luggage because they weren't going anywhere on a holiday. They seemed to be moving to Sumatra and they packed up all of their possessions. I don't know how that can be cost effective. It must have cost a fortune, but I don't know. There were a lot of people in these lineups, so much luggage. And when I saw people picking up their suitcases, it's like they could barely get them off the ground. They were so heavy, huge ones. And I started to wonder, like, man, oh man, how do these planes get off the ground? I started to worry that we were going to crash because it was just going to be too heavy. We all had way too much luggage, but of course, you have to trust the airline that they're keeping track of these things and they're weighing everything. And if they get to the point where they've reached the weight limit, they're going to put it on a different flight or do something. They're not going to overload one of these, I hope. But I stood in that lineup for a long time. Even people that were ahead of me, like just single guys like me who had one small suitcase, they took forever to check them in. I don't know what things in Indonesia do seem to go a bit slower than elsewhere. Very, very slow. And I usually chalk that up to, well, it's a low budget airline. But honestly, I can't think of what they could be doing up there. I was watching one guy kind of timing it mentally and going up to the counter. And then there aren't that many stages, right? Stage 1, you put your suitcase on the conveyor belt because it gets weighed. You hand over your ID and your ticket. And then the woman types a couple of things, weighs the bag, prints out the baggage tag, puts it on the handle, and hands back the boarding pass. There are only so many things that need to be done. But no matter how I divided it up in my brain, like so many minutes for this stage, so many minutes for this, it doesn't add up. the guy would go up to the ticket counter, and then I'd keep checking. He's still there. He's still there. He's still there. What are they doing? It's like, what in the world is going on up there? There's no way this should take that long. It just kind of like my sense of logic, it offended my sense of logic. This does not make any sense. Either time has slowed down, I'm in some sort of wormhole where time is moving at 1/10 of its normal speed, or something very strange is going on up there. And it bothered me so much, I wanted to go up to the front of the line and just sort of ask them. It's like, what are you doing up here? Why is this taking so long? It does not make any sense. I couldn't think of anything they could be doing that would require that much time. Honestly, are they having a cup of coffee? Are they watching a movie? What are they doing up there? Why, it was so long. And then the next person would go up and same thing. And then when one of these women who would be ahead of me with the 10 boxes and the 6 suitcases, oh my gosh, did that take a long time to process all of that. Huge amounts of luggage. Wow. Anyway, I was in that lineup for what felt like forever. And then when I got to the front, I panicked because I realized I had made a mistake. And I am going to say that I don't usually make mistakes, but I guess that I'd probably be lying, because if I don't make any mistakes, how do I talk about things for 2 hours? Obviously, everything goes wrong, so I do make a lot of mistakes. But in this case, I really struggled with packing a little bit because I arrived in Indonesia without a laptop, and I met my mystery benefactors in Jakarta, and I now had a laptop, and the laptop is a bit heavier than my previous laptop, so it adds a lot of weight to my carry-on bag. So normally when I put in all of my normal camera gear and all of my personal stuff and my tablet, 3 smartphones, everything, that all my electronics, my valuable stuff, it all goes in my carry-on, and it hits like the 7 kilogram mark, because you have to be under 7 kilograms. But in this case, I'm adding like a 2.2 kilogram laptop. So I put that into my knapsack, and now I wanted to keep it as light as possible. And I figured I'll just make my check-in bag as heavy as possible. I'll put everything in there. So like even the power brick that comes with the laptop, I didn't put it in my knapsack. I just put the laptop in there because I would need the power cord. And I put the power cord into my checked bag. And I also took I have one soft, kind of hard protective case for my GoPros. I have 3 GoPros right now and an Insta360 camera, and there's a battery inside each of those cameras. And without thinking, I took that camera bag, and I mean, it's fine in terms of being a check bag. The GoPros aren't going to be damaged. They're well protected in there with lots of padding, so that's not a problem. But I put that bag into my checked bag rather than in my knapsack. And I only did that to like spread the weight around. So I just did that. And then when I created my own luggage, it's like Fort Knox, the way that I have to wrap up this plastic thing that I use for luggage. And then I put a rope around it with a very complex roping pattern with knots and this and that. So it's really, really hard to get into that. The way I'd packed, super, super carefully, super meticulously. Everything is in a bag, inside another bag, strapped together with other straps, and then inside this bag, and then strapped again. Because I don't have the protection of a suitcase, is what I'm saying. I don't have a hard shell suitcase, so I have to sort of create my own internal protection. So I packed very carefully, and I have another rope on the outside. So getting into this bag is really, really hard. It takes a lot of time. And then I put the bag on the conveyor belt, and the woman sort of seemed surprised because it looks really weird. It's like, what kind of a luggage is that? I mean, are you a hobo? Like, where's your suitcase? Anyway, she reacted to it, and then she turned to me and said, well, what's in there? Like, what's in your bag? And then I was startled for a minute. And I said, well, nothing special. Clothing, toiletries, personal items. I started listing the things I could think of that were in the bag. If she had given me a minute, I could have given her an itemized list of every single item in that bag. I know the contents. But in the heat of the moment, I kind of stuttered. It was like, oh yeah, what is in there? Because I had the new laptop. I'd moved things around, so it wasn't instantly at the tip of my tongue, and I was like stuttering a little bit, hemming and hawing as well. Clothing, personal items. And then she seemed to think there was a problem here because I wasn't answering with confidence. And then she says, electronics? Do you have any electronics in that bag? And I was about to say yes, because, well, I had the power cord for the laptop. Is that electronics? And so that I was going to say, well, yeah, I've got this power cord. But before I said that, she said, batteries? Any batteries? And I went, oh, crap. Yes, there are batteries. Because normally I put all the batteries in my carry-on because I know about the no battery rule. I don't put batteries in my checked bags. But my GoPros and the 360 camera, each one of them had a battery inserted at the time. So there were a couple of batteries, a GoPro battery and an Insta360 battery in my checked bag. But then, out of self-preservation, I lied and just said no. She said, any electronics? And I was about to say yes, but then she said, batteries? And no batteries, no electronics. There's nothing in there. There's nothing going on over here. These are not the droids you're looking for. Please move on. Because the thought of opening up that package in the airport, undoing all the work I had done to remove those batteries and then rewrap the whole, oh man, I couldn't face it. So I lied and said, no batteries. And I justified the lie because I'm pretty sure everybody has batteries in their bags. I mean, airlines have this rule, no batteries allowed, but there's no way they can enforce that rule. Everybody will either forget about batteries. I'm sure there's just tons and tons of batteries in all the suitcases around me. It just couldn't be any other way. So I figured it's a little bit of not a white lie, it is a harmless lie. And I just said, no batteries, no electronics, because I did not want to face the consequences of saying, oh yeah, there are batteries in there. But anyway, she took me at my word, and then, good to go. And then again, things felt weird the entire time because as I was going through the system, I kept expecting to run into immigration and customs, right? All these things. But of course, it was a domestic flight. So it was again kind of weird. But I have to admit, I was a little bit stressed out for some reason. I was not in a great mood. Something about that whole trip to Jakarta had, I don't know, when I designed this, my mystery benefactor reached out and said, oh, can we meet up in Jakarta? And I was in Sumatra, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And in my mind, it was like, yeah, I can just hop on a flight, go to Jakarta, and then fly back to Sumatra. In my mind, it wasn't that big a deal. But in reality, I guess for me and my personality, any flight is a big deal. I think I take things way too seriously. I'm way too task-oriented, and I don't relax and enjoy a lot of normal things that people might enjoy, such as the Blue Sky Lounge, having a nice meal, go into the lounge, have a drink, have a cigar, have a massage, just enjoy the experience. I don't do that. I'm focused on the logistics, getting to my destination, and maybe I don't enjoy it as much as I should. But anyway, by the time the dust settled on this whole journey, because as I talked about, it made more sense, it was more convenient, cheaper, easier with the visas to go back to Malaysia first and then go to Jakarta. That was the more logical way to do it rather than staying in Indonesia. At least that was the decision I came to. And everything seemed fine. But then, oh man, once you start adding up all of the stages, it becomes a much bigger task than you realized, right? So it seems so easy at the beginning. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll be in Jakarta on that date. It'll be great. I'm looking forward to meeting you. And I'm so excited about the new laptop and all these things. So, like, I'll just agree to anything. Oh, yeah, that's great. Perfect. No problem. And I make plans to do things, not realizing perhaps what's actually involved. And then going all the way back to the beginning, I'm in the hotel in Tanjung Balai, and now I'm repacking because I'm leaving my bike behind and my cycling gear because I don't need to bring it to Malaysia or to Jakarta. That would be ridiculous. So I have to kind of spend a day repacking everything, separating things into two piles, leaving my bike gear behind, and then taking the Becak to the ferry terminal, getting into the ferry terminal, 5 hour ferry ride to Port Dickson, then staying the night in Port Dickson, then going to Kuala Lumpur, then going into a new hotel, new check-in, and then you do the reverse all over again, back out to the airport, packing again, and then flight to Jakarta. And I had all those troubles. I think that's where it started. Had my arrival in Jakarta gone smoothly, it would have been okay because I would have been at the hotel by 2 o'clock, checked into a really nice hotel room. I would have had hours to relax and enjoy myself. But I ended up spending the entire day at the airport just trying to install all these apps so that I could book a train ticket, things like that. And anyway, by the time I arrived in Jakarta at the Zest Hotel, I was a bit of a wreck. I was tired. I don't know why I was so tired, but I was. I was stressed out. It had been a much more difficult, multi-layered, multi-stage journey than I was expecting. And then it really wasn't over yet because I was only at the Zest Hotel for 2 nights. And the whole time I was quite busy while I was there. And then it was like right back to the airport, going through all of this again. And I was just really worn out. For someone who perhaps people might view me as something of a traveler, I'm not. I'm more of a stayer. For me, going somewhere is exhausting. I love being there, but the going there part, I don't know. It's really hard. So, yeah, I love staying in a place like Tanjung Balai. Love that town. I mean, I could hang out there for a year living in Indonesia. I would just have the time of my life. But constantly traveling, constantly looking for transportation from here to here, all the details, all the apps, all the logistics. Yeah, I don't seem to enjoy that part of it very much. But yeah, it was a long, difficult journey, and I was more stressed out. I guess I was talking about how mentally I was prepared for the worst because I associate airports with an international flight. And I wasn't really able to relax enough because I didn't fully understand that this was a domestic flight. It kept hitting me. It was like, oh, yeah, I didn't have to get here so early. Oh, yeah, my airport hotel was 10 minutes away from the terminal. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't have to go through immigration and customs. And I could have done it in a much easier way than I ended up doing it. And of course, then I got to the departure gate, and then there were some Indonesian aspects to it. I mentioned one already, that there was no information. So I knew I had to go to gate number 5, but I had no confidence that I had to go to gate 5 because when I got to gate 5, there was nothing there. There was no sign that said Super Airjet 888. Departing at 3:30 in the afternoon or whatever the departure time was. There was no desk. There was no staff. There was nothing. It was just a glass door that had the number 5 on it that was closed, and there were just people sitting around. And that's it. So I'm like, am I in the right place? And I was worried about connecting with my airport train, so I didn't want to miss. So I'm wandering around. I'm constantly looking at the board, the digital board that tells you the gates for the different flights. And I'm just confirming over and over again that gate 5, everybody told me gate 5, I'm in the right place. But I couldn't confirm it because there was nobody there. There was no staff from Super Airjet. There was nothing, no way I could confirm it. There are no signs. And then it said boarding at 3, I think. Yeah, boarding at 3, departing 3:30. But then it got to 3 o'clock, and I'm doing my usual thing where I want to time things. I hit the bathroom just before I get on. So I'm making these trips. Luckily, they had bathrooms there. And there's all kinds of shops and coffee shops and stores, things like that. So it was a kind of a really nice lounge area there. No trouble with that at all. And there was bathrooms there in the basement. And I kept timing things so I would go down to this bathroom. And it was quite a funny experience too, because they take their bathrooms very seriously. And they're nice, they're clean, and there's a bathroom attendant. And in this particular bathroom, there was a design problem because when you come down the stairs, it's a very tight, narrow area. And I noticed that all the men went into the women's bathroom because they're going to the bathroom. They're following signs to the bathroom. They get to the bottom, there's the bathroom. But the sign that says women at the top, it's out of your eye line. You don't see it. So I think they realized over time that men were constantly going into the women's bathroom. So now they have this uniformed bathroom attendant blocking the door to the women's bathroom. And he's standing there waiting, and he's at attention. He's practically wearing a suit, and he's behaving in a very formal manner. And with a broad arm gesture, he ushers you to your left going into the men's bathroom. So I go down there, and I don't know. I don't like a lot of ceremony surrounding my bathroom visits. I'm like, just leave me alone. You see in movies in the old days, like fancy places for the rich people, they have a bathroom attendant, a man who's waiting in the bathroom, and he helps you and gives you towels and soaps or whatever he's doing. I hate that. It's like, just leave me alone. I don't need someone hovering over me and talking to me while I'm trying to use the bathroom. So going into this bathroom, having a uniformed attendant is not to my liking. I don't like to have that sense of ceremony and the sense of someone watching me as I'm going to the bathroom. So anyway, I go down there. I'm timing it because I know we're just about to board. So I hit the bathroom, come back up, but we don't board. It's now after 3 o'clock, and the clock is ticking, 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 ticking. And now it's 3:15. Now it's 3:20, 3:25. And I'm thinking, what's going on? On the board, it said the flight is on time. So if I'm at the right gate, why aren't we boarding yet? I'm starting to panic. And then finally there was like a man, like he doesn't work for Super Airjet. He looked like a kind of a security guard. He clearly wouldn't speak. You wouldn't go up to this man expecting him to speak English or know anything about flights or anything. He didn't look like that was his job. He was just sitting behind a desk looking grim and official. But he was the only person I could talk to. So I apologetically went up to him, and I'm holding out my boarding pass, and gate A5, am I in the right place? And it turns out he was very, very helpful, and he took my boarding pass, and he looked at it, and he crossed out the boarding at 3 o'clock, and he wrote over top of it 3:30. So it's late. The flight is late. Yes, late. Okay. So now, by the time we finally get around to boarding time, because it's so ice cold in there, there's so much air conditioning, this always kickstarts my kidneys for some reason. That's one reason I have trouble on planes and all these sorts of transportation. I have to go to the bathroom all the time because in that cold air, for whatever reason, my kidneys are just working overtime, and I have to go to the bathroom all the time. So now that we have a new departure time, I had to go back to the bathroom. So as we were getting close to, the guy told me, okay, and even 3:30 came and went, and we still weren't boarding. But I thought, well, we're going to have to be boarding soon, so let's do one more bathroom run. So now I go back down to the bathroom. The uniformed attendant, he's still there, and now he's looking at me with surprise, like, you again? Like, what the heck is going on here? And he gives me that broad ceremonial gesture. This way, sir, into the men's room. So I was like, yeah, thank you. We're like practically bowing at each other. Going to the bathroom has turned into a ceremonial event for royalty. But anyway, I went into the bathroom again, came back out, and then oddly enough, this man who I thought was a like security guard, he was standing at the glass door ushering people onto the flight. But again, there was nothing. Like there was no announcement like flight 888 to Medan now boarding at gate 5. Please proceed. There was nothing. There was no sign. There was no indication. All I saw were a bunch of people going through this glass door and sort of waving their boarding pass at this guy. And I thought, well, I guess I'll join them. It is gate 5. I think I'll just join the group. I'll see what plane I end up on. Luckily, it ended up being my Super Airjet. And got on board, had an aisle seat. And I noticed that the plane was in pretty rough shape. The seats were rather broken down. A lot of the leather wrapping and the cushioning had all torn open and had holes in it. The glue and the stuffing was exposed. And it was kind of funny because you're supposed to put your seats in the upright position for takeoff, right? Flight attendants are very serious about that. But a lot of these seats were broken and they would just fall backwards. And then the flight attendants would come, no, sir, got to be upright. And they put it to the upright position. She walks away. The guy leans back and it goes crack and it falls back again into a reclining position. So a lot of things were broken on the plane. But one thing I noticed, it's a low budget carrier, just like Air Asia, but the seats had just a little bit more of leg room. And it's amazing that I measure my life in inches of leg room. An inch is huge in my life. Like when I get on the Air Asia flights, if I sit perfectly upright, like perfect posture, pushed all the way back into the seat, my knees still hit the seat in front. So there's nothing. There's not even a millimeter of space between my knees and the seat in front of me. Air Asia chairs are pushed that close together. They're not designed for a tall person like me. Tall-ish. And I'll explain why I'm tall-ish rather than tall in a minute. But when I got onto the Super Airjet, I looked at the seats and they struck me. It's like, hey, I think there's more room here. You know, it's almost like I'm a Terminator with my own vision. I have such a keen sense of leg room. I could just glance at the seats and like, you know what? I think there's an extra inch of leg room here. And then when I sat down, I think there was like 2 inches of space between my knees and the seat in front of me. And that was like, luxury. It felt so amazing. It was like 2 inches of space, and it made all the difference in the world. It was pretty incredible. I have very low expectations of life, I guess. Anyway, that was pretty funny. And I say that I was tall-ish because while I was waiting in the departure gate number 5, I spotted another foreigner, a white dude, and he was at least 7 feet tall. 7.5? I don't know. He was the biggest human being I have seen in a long time. Massive man. And he wasn't just tall. Like a lot of really, really tall people are thin. He had like good-sized bodily proportions. Everything matched. A 7.5-foot man. He was a giant. And he came walking through the departure gate, and I was just astonished to see him. I was like, hokey doodle, look at that. He was so huge. And of course, I react to that because when I'm traveling around Asia, people do comment on my height all the time. I'm 6 feet tall, basically, maybe 6'1". And for this part of the world, that's pretty tall. And when you sit down on a train or a plane or whatever, the seats aren't designed for someone 6 feet tall. So I'm always dealing with seats that are too small, that don't have enough leg room, doorways that are too low. I'm hitting my head on doorways all the time. And then I'm looking at this guy. And of course, people talk to me all the time. They comment on my height. Oh, how tall are you? You're so tall. And we always take selfies together here in Indonesia in particular. And then when I'm standing with people, you know, they come up to the middle of my chest And it's really hard for them to get all of us in frame because my head is way up above their head and I end up bending over. So my height is an issue. It comes up all the time in day-to-day life. And then I'm looking at this 7.5 foot massive individual. I thought, man, what a life you must lead. Just all the time. It just affects everything he does. And if I end up talking about my height all the time, this guy must end up talking about it 20 times a day. So, yeah, as soon as I saw him, I instantly made an adjustment in my behavior because I don't like to do the normal thing. Like when you see someone that unusual, your instinct is to look at them. It's like, whoa, look at that guy. And then when you talk to him, you're going to say something about, man, how tall are you? You're really tall. And I know this would happen to him 20 times a day. So I make a mental note, okay, don't react, don't look at him. If you speak with him, don't mention the height. Just don't bring it up because I'm sure he gets it all the time from everyone. So he doesn't need it from me. But man, it was quite something to see somebody that big. It's really, really something. And he was on my flight, so I got to sort of glance at him out of the corner of my eye from time to time and just marvel at how he looked and how big he was. And if I'm that astonished, I can't even imagine what Indonesians would feel like. If he went to Tanjung Balai and walked through that town, oh man, he would set off. He would start a parade through the town. He would get that much attention. But anyway, so yeah, I just kind of watched him because I struggle with these seats, so I kind of watched him out of the corner of my eye, try to get into his seat, and of course he got one of the emergency exit seats where there's more leg room for him. But yeah, that would be quite a struggle for him. And in my case, I got really, really lucky because I sat on the aisle. And then a man came along eventually. He took the window seat, and the entire plane filled up as far as I could tell. And there was one empty seat left on that plane, and it was the one beside me. So the seat beside me was empty for the whole flight. I was so pleased with this that I actually typed out a sentence on Google Translate, and I wrote out, "We are so lucky we have an empty seat." And I translated that to Indonesian, and I played it for the guy sitting beside me in the window seat. So I showed him the Google Translate, and he laughed. Oh, yeah, we are so lucky. Because he got to spread out and put his bag there and do things like that. Such a luxury these days to have an empty seat beside you on a low-cost carrier because they're usually fully booked. You just don't get empty seats anymore. So that was kind of cool. And then, yeah, I was so tired. I was stressed out. I didn't do anything on the flight. I just closed my eyes and, I just rested the whole way to Medan. I had the Relive app running on my phone because I like to keep track of my journeys. And then I noticed later on, like middle of the flight, I wanted to take a look at Relive, and there was no GPS. It was kind of funny because on Relive, it shows you a map of the world, and then it draws a line on it to show your trip. But my yellow line, I think it's yellow, the yellow line ended in the middle of the runway, which I thought was kind of funny because you could see the line starting at my hotel, going to Terminal 1, me walking up and down, up and down, up and down Terminal 1 so many times. And then I could see where I got on the plane, and then the plane starts moving down the runway, and halfway along, it just stops. It's almost like I vanished at that point. If anybody was looking at that, they'd think I'd disappeared or something. But I just lost GPS signal for some reason right in the middle of takeoff. And then from that point on until like an hour later, hour and a half later, it just didn't keep track of me at all. And then I turned on my phone app to look at it, and I just kept it running in my hand long enough. I was waiting to get a GPS connection, and it finally did connect. And then I got the rest of the trip, landing in Medan and then coming to this hotel. But when you replay the 3D Relive video, Normally, even when you're flying, you can see progress, like it rises in altitude, and you can see the plane adjusting direction, going a little bit right, a little bit left, a little bit south, a little bit north. They don't follow a straight line path, they're following a route. But when you look at it on Relive, it's just a straight line because it lost GPS, so it had no idea how I got from the runway to that point above Lake Toba as we're going into Medan for the landing. So then all you see there is a straight line right to that point. That's kind of funny. Yeah, and from that point, nothing else really happened that I haven't already talked about. Got my luggage. I didn't have to deal with customs, immigration, nothing at all. I was so pleased by how the airport was so welcoming. People were so friendly. I, I mean, I don't have any kind of a pool to judge by, but just going to the Jakarta airport and then going to the Zest Hotel, it didn't have that special feeling that I get in Sumatra. Maybe, yeah, it's an international airport, it's an international hotel. So a foreigner like me, I guess, is not a big deal. And I didn't have that special sense of being in Indonesia. But the second we landed in Medan, everything changed. Everybody was just much more friendly. Everybody was saying hello. Everybody wanted to talk with me. It was like, back in Sumatra, I like this. It just has a friendlier, welcoming feeling. But I don't know if that extends throughout all of Java. Like if you go traveling out of Jakarta, might go into the city itself and then go to Bandung and Yogyakarta. I don't know what the mood is like there, but I know in Sumatra it's just very casual, very social, very energetic, very welcoming. And I like that feeling. So it was really nice to go through the airport. People were looking at me and saying hello and, oh, welcome to Sumatra. And yeah, it was really nice. And then I went through the whole thing I already talked about, taking the train and walking to my hotel and checking in, unpacking in my smoke-filled room. And I think that brings me to the end of my little story from yesterday. Yeah, I don't always have this much to talk about in terms of a trip, but when I'm flying anywhere, going from one city to another, one country to another, it's a very eventful day. And man, I was so tired last night. Even when I woke up this morning, I woke up many times, but I finally but around 6 a.m. I thought, well, I still feel exhausted, but I want to get started on the day. So let's turn on the lights, take a shower, and let's get started. So even though I wasn't rested yet, I'm still feeling really tired. I'm exhausted right now, but I started the day anyway. I figure I can take a nap during the day if I need to. So that is it for the Planet Doug podcast for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you enjoyed some of the stories of me on the road, all the unusual things that happened to me. The dummy that I am, I never seem to know what I'm doing anymore. Everything is such a struggle. I find ways to make everything more difficult than it needs to be. That seems to be my pattern of late. So that is it. I'm shutting down, and I hope you come back for the next one, and I will talk to you then.